The Microsoft Basement Sleep Story. The Quiet Room. Welcome. There is no rush here. There is nowhere else you need to be, nothing else you need to do. Just this moment. Just this breath. Just the sound of these words settling around you like a soft blanket. Let yourself arrive, wherever you are, in bed perhaps, or somewhere comfortable and still. Let yourself be fully here. Not thinking about tomorrow, not replaying today, just resting gently in the present. Let's begin with your breath. Take a slow inhale through your nose. Let the air fill your lungs easily without strain. Hold it for just a moment, not tightly, just a gentle pause, and then release it through your mouth. Soft and slow, like a sigh. Good? Let's do that once more. Breathe in, slow and easy. Feel your chest rise. Feel your ribs expand. And now let it go. Let the breath leave your body on its own, unhurried, like water finding its way downhill. One more time, if you like. In through the nose, that gentle pause. And out through the mouth. Slow. Steady, as natural as waves on a quiet shore. Now, as you continue to breathe at your own pace, bring your attention to your shoulders. Are they tense? Many of us carry our worries there, bunched up near our ears, held tight without even noticing. See if you can let them drop. Just a little. Just enough to feel the difference. Let them soften and settle, heavy and relaxed. Notice your jaw. Is it clenched? Let it loosen. Let your teeth part slightly, your lips rest gently together. There's nothing you need to hold on to. And your eyes, if they're still open, you can let them close whenever you're ready. Or let them rest, half-lidded, focused on nothing in particular. Soft gaze, soft everything. You don't need to remember any of this. You don't need to follow every word, or understand every sentence, or stay awake until the end. This story is not a test. It's not something you need to complete. It's simply here, a gentle companion, keeping you company as you drift toward sleep. If your mind wanders, that's perfectly fine. Let it wander. It will find its way back when it's ready, or it won't, and either way is good. Now, let me take you somewhere. Imagine, if you will, a staircase leading down. Not a grand staircase, just a simple set of wooden steps, worn smooth by years of use. The wood creaks softly under your feet as you descend, each step taking you a little deeper, a little further from the noise of the world above. At the bottom of the stairs, there is a door. An ordinary door, painted white, with a plain metal handle. You open it, and you step through, and you find yourself in a basement. The basement is quiet. That is the first thing you notice. The quiet. It's not an empty silence. There are sounds, small sounds, but they are gentle sounds, peaceful sounds. The faint hum of an old machine somewhere in the corner. The soft tick of a clock you can't quite see. The occasional creak of the house above, settling into the night. The air is cool down here, the way basement air often is. There's a freshness to it, a stillness. You can feel it on your skin, on your arms, on your face. It's the temperature of calm, of shelter, of being held safely underground while the world outside does whatever it does. There is a desk in this basement. It's pushed against one wall, a sturdy wooden desk with scratches and marks that speak of years of use. Papers are spread across its surface, not messily, but with the comfortable disorder of work in progress. Notes in pencil, diagrams, columns of numbers and symbols that might mean something to someone, though you don't need to know what. On the desk, there is a lamp. It has a green glass shade, the kind that glows warmly when lit, casting a circle of soft light onto the papers below. The light is gentle, amber-tinged, the color of old honey. It doesn't reach the corners of the room. The corners stay in shadow, but that's all right. The shadows are soft, too. Nothing sharp, nothing threatening, just the quiet dark at the edges of things. Feel that warmth for a moment, the warmth of the lamp. Imagine it on your hands, if your hands were resting on the desk. A gentle heat, like sunlight through a window on a mild afternoon. The kind of warmth that makes you want to slow down, to linger, to stay exactly where you are. And beneath your fingertips, if you imagine resting them on those scattered papers, you can feel the texture. The slight grain of the paper, the soft give of it. Some sheets are smooth, others have a rougher quality, more fibrous. Old paper, perhaps, or inexpensive paper, the kind that was common once before everything became glossy and coated. It's okay to let your thoughts drift now. You can stay with the basement, or you can float somewhere else entirely. The story will continue, patient and unhurried, and it will be here whenever you want to return. In one corner of the basement, there is a machine. It's not large, about the size of a suitcase perhaps, or a small television set. Boxy and beige, with rows of switches on the front panel, and tiny lights that blink in patterns you can't quite follow. This is a computer, though it looks nothing like the computers you might know today. It has no screen, or if it does, the screen shows only glowing green text on a black background, patient and still. The machine hums. It's a soft sound, barely there, like the purr of a sleeping cat or the distant drone of a refrigerator in another room. Steady, constant, somehow comforting in its consistency. The machine is working, thinking its quiet thoughts, doing whatever machines do when left to themselves. There is a chair at the desk, an old wooden chair with a cushion on the seat, the cushion faded and worn to the shape of whoever sits there. You can imagine settling into it, The way the cushion would give beneath you, accepting your weight, molding itself to your body. The way the chair might creak slightly, just once as you lean back. And if you were sitting in that chair, looking at those papers in the pool of lamplight, listening to the hum of the computer in the corner, you would feel something. A particular feeling, hard to name exactly. Peaceful, perhaps, or focused, or simply present, aware of the moment and of nothing else. This basement, this quiet room, is a place where things begin. Not with fanfare, not with grand announcements or dramatic breakthroughs, just quietly, patiently, one small step at a time. Imagine someone sitting at this desk late at night when the rest of the world is asleep. The house above is dark and still. Outside, there might be rain, a gentle rain, tapping against the small window near the ceiling, running down the glass in slow rivulets. Or perhaps it's simply quiet, the deep quiet of a suburban neighborhood after midnight when even the dogs have stopped barking and the cars have stopped passing. The person at the desk is working, writing something perhaps, or thinking about a problem, or typing slowly on a keyboard that clicks soft and rhythmic. Click, click, click. A pause. Then more clicks. There's a particular kind of satisfaction in this work. It's not the satisfaction of finishing, not yet. It's something smaller, more continuous. The satisfaction of figuring out one small piece of the puzzle, of trying something that doesn't work, and then trying something else, and then trying something else again, until finally, quietly, something does work. And you nod to yourself, make a note, and move on to the next piece. This is how things are built, sometimes. Not in leaps, but in inches. Like placing tiles in a mosaic, one by one, each one small and unremarkable on its own, but together, eventually, after enough time and patience, forming something whole. Let your breath slow even further now, if it hasn't already. Let the rhythm of the story carry you, the gentle cadence of the words, the quiet pauses between sentences, like the ticking of that unseen clock in the basement, steady and reliable, asking nothing of you. You don't need to hold on to these images. You don't need to remember the desk, or the lamp, or the papers, or the machine. They're just here to keep you company, to give your mind something soft to rest upon as it settles toward sleep. Outside the basement, the night is deep and still. The house is quiet. The street is quiet. The whole world seems to be holding its breath, waiting for morning, resting in the peaceful hours between today and tomorrow. But that's out there. In here, in the basement, there is only the lamp's warm glow, the hum of the machine, the soft rhythm of work being done, slowly and carefully, with no deadline and no pressure. Just curiosity. Just patience. Just the quiet joy of understanding something a little bit better than you did before. This is where our story will unfold. In basements like this one, In quiet rooms, late at night, where young people sit with their puzzles and their problems, turning them over and over, looking for solutions. We'll meet two of them soon. Two young people who love problems, who love patterns, who see the world a little differently than most, and who can't help wondering, what if? What else? What next? But we don't need to meet them yet. Not quite yet. For now, let's just stay here in the quiet, in the warmth of the lamp, in the gentle hum of the machine. Let your eyes grow heavy if they aren't already. Let your body sink deeper into wherever you're resting. Let the story hold you, soft and steady, like a boat rocking gently on a still lake. The basement will be here. The desk will be here. The lamp will be here. The papers and the puzzles and the patient, steady work, all of it will be here, waiting whenever you're ready. But for now, just rest. Just breathe. Just drift. And when we continue, we'll go back in time, just a little, to a city on the edge of Puget Sound, to a school with a peculiar new machine, to two young people whose lives were about to intertwine with the future, though they didn't know it yet. But that's for later. For now, the basement is quiet. The lamp is glowing. The rain, if there is rain, is falling softly against the window. And you are here, safe and warm, drifting gently toward sleep. Two people who loved puzzles. The basement is still here. The lamp is still glowing, that warm amber circle on the desk. The machine in the corner is still humming its quiet hum. And you are still here, too, resting, breathing, letting the night hold you gently. Let's go back in time now. Not far, just a few decades, to a world that was smaller in some ways, slower, a world where computers were rare and strange, where most people had never touched one, never seen one up close. But some people had. And for those people, everything was about to change. In the early 1970s, there was a particular kind of person who was drawn to computers. They were hobbyists, mostly. Tinkerers. The kind of people who like to take things apart and put them back together, who liked to understand how things worked, who found satisfaction in solving problems that other people didn't even know existed. They gathered in small clubs, in basements and garages, in the back rooms of electronics shops. They read magazines with names like Popular Electronics and Byte, magazines printed on thin paper with dense columns of text and advertisements for circuit boards and soldering irons. The computers they dreamed about were not sleek or elegant. They were boxes full of wires, covered in switches and blinking lights. They had no mice, no windows, no icons. Just a keyboard, perhaps, and a screen that displayed glowing green text on a black background. or sometimes just the lights themselves, blinking in patterns that meant something if you knew how to read them. You can let this picture form loosely in your mind, or not at all. You don't need to see it clearly. You don't need to remember it. Just let the words wash over you, soft as the sound of rain on a roof, steady as the rhythm of your own breathing. In Seattle in those years, there was a school called Lakeside. It was a private school, old brick buildings set among trees, with playing fields and a library and all the things you might expect from such a place. But it also had something unusual: access to a computer. Not a computer in the building itself, that would have been far too expensive, but a teletype machine. A device that looked like a large mechanical typewriter, connected by telephone lines to a computer somewhere else in the city. You would type your instructions, and the machine would send them through the wires. And after a moment, the computer would send back its response, and the teletype would clatter to life, printing the answer on a long roll of paper. It was slow. It was noisy. It was, by any modern standard, impossibly limited. But to the students who discovered it, it was magic. Two of those students were Bill and Paul. Bill was younger, just 13 when he first encountered the teletype. He was small for his age, with sandy hair and glasses, and he had a particular intensity about him, a way of focusing on something so completely that the rest of the world seemed to disappear. When he was thinking hard, he would rock back and forth slightly, a gentle motion, almost like someone keeping time to music only they could hear. Paul was 2 years older, taller and quieter, with a calm demeanor and a deep curiosity about how things were built. He liked to read technical manuals, the denser the better. He liked to understand systems, not just what they did, but why they did it, how each piece connected to every other piece. They were different, these two, but they shared something important: a love of puzzles. A patience for problems that might take hours or days or weeks to solve. A quiet satisfaction in the moment when something finally worked. Let your shoulders soften again if they've tightened. Let your jaw relax. Let your face be still. The story is patient. It will wait for you. It will be here, gentle and steady, for as long as you need it. In the basement of your imagination, that quiet room with the lamp and the desk, you can picture them now. Two young people sitting together, papers spread before them. The lamp casts its warm light over their work. The machine in the corner hums. Outside, somewhere far above, rain is falling, tapping gently against the windows of the house. Bill is writing something in a notebook, his pencil moving quickly, then pausing, then moving again. Every few minutes, he tears out a page and starts fresh, crumpling the discarded sheet and dropping it on the floor beside his chair. A small pile of paper balls is growing there, evidence of ideas tried and abandoned. Paul sits more still. He's reading something, a manual, perhaps, or a printout from the teletype, and every now and then he makes a small mark in the margin with a pen. A check mark, an arrow, a question mark. He has a habit of folding down the corner of pages he wants to return to, small triangular flags throughout the document. These are the small habits that make a person real. Not the grand achievements, not the moments that make headlines, but the little things. The way someone holds a pencil, the way they pause before speaking, the way they look out a window when they're thinking, watching the rain trace paths down the glass, following a single drop as it joins with another and runs faster toward the sill. Paul did this sometimes. Watched the rain. Let his mind wander through a problem while his eyes rested on something simple and moving. And then, after a while, he would turn back to the desk and pick up his pen and make another small mark in the margin. The teletype machine at Lakeside became their obsession. They would arrive early, before other students, to claim time on it. They would stay late until someone made them leave. They learned the language of the computer, a language called BASIC, which stood for something technical that doesn't matter now. And they wrote programs, simple at first, then more complex. A program to play tic-tac-toe. A program to calculate schedules. A program to simulate a game, or solve a puzzle, or do something that no one had quite done before. Each program was a small exercise in patience. You would write your instructions line by line, trying to anticipate every possibility, every path the computer might take. Then you would feed the program into the teletype and wait and see what happened. Usually, something went wrong. A misplaced comma, a number that should have been a letter, a logical error where the computer did exactly what you told it to do, but what you told it to do wasn't what you actually meant. This is the nature of programming, then and now. It's not about being right the first time. It's about being patient enough to find where you went wrong and trying again, and again, and again. Each attempt a small adjustment, a tile placed more carefully in the mosaic, until finally the pattern emerges. You can drift now if you like. You can let the details fade, let the faces blur, let the basement grow soft and indistinct around the edges. The story will keep going, quiet and steady, like the hum of the machine, like the fall of the rain, like the slow rhythm of your own breath. The years passed, the way years do when you're young, slowly in the living, quickly in the remembering. Bill finished high school and went to college, to a place called Harvard on the other side of the country. He studied mathematics and spent time in the computer labs, but something was restless in him. Something that wanted to build, not just to learn. Paul took a different path for a while. He went to a university closer to home, then left to take a job. He ended up in Boston, not far from where Bill was studying, working for a company that made computers. Large computers, the kind that filled rooms. But he kept thinking about something smaller, something personal. They stayed in touch, these two friends. They would meet for dinner, or talk on the phone, or sit together in Bill's dormitory room, surrounded by textbooks and dirty laundry, and they would talk about the future, about what might be possible, about the small machines that were beginning to appear in magazines, kits you could order through the mail, computers you could build yourself. The dormitory room was not so different from the basement in its way. Small, cluttered, a desk lamp casting a circle of light onto papers and books. The radiator clicking and hissing as it pushed heat into the cold Massachusetts winter. Outside the window, bare trees against a gray sky, and sometimes snow, falling slowly, silently, covering everything in white. Bill would sit at his desk, tapping a pencil against the wood, thinking. Paul would sit in the one comfortable chair, a technical magazine open in his lap, reading about circuits and chips and the latest developments in the world of small computers. They didn't know, in those moments, what was coming. They didn't know that their lives were about to change, that the whole world was about to change, in ways no one could quite predict. They just knew that something was happening. Something interesting. Something they wanted to be part of. And then, one winter afternoon, Paul saw something. He was walking through Harvard Square, past the shops and the bookstores and the newsstands, his coat pulled tight against the cold. And in the window of a newsstand, on the cover of a magazine, there was a picture. A small metal box, covered in switches, covered in lights. The headline called it a computer, a personal computer, something an ordinary person could own. He stopped walking. He stood there in the cold, looking at that cover, feeling something shift inside him. A quiet spark. A recognition. This was it. This was the moment they had been waiting for, without quite knowing they were waiting. He bought the magazine. He tucked it under his arm, and he walked through the winter streets to find his friend, to show him what he had found, to begin the next chapter of a story that was only just starting to unfold. But that's for later. That's for the next part of our journey together. For now, let's stay here in the quiet, in the warmth, in the gentle space between one moment and the next. The basement is still here. The lamp is still glowing. The rain is still falling, soft and steady, holding the night in its gentle hands. And you are still here, breathing, resting, drifting slowly towards sleep. The spark has been struck. The story is beginning. But there's no rush. There's never any rush. Just rest now. Just breathe. Just let the night carry you where it will. A quiet noticing. The magazine was called Popular Electronics. It had a bright cover, the kind that was meant to catch your eye on a crowded newsstand. But it wasn't the colors that stopped Paul in the cold that winter afternoon. It was the picture. A small metal box, about the size of a bread loaf, covered in rows of switches and tiny red lights. The Altair 8800, the headline said. the world's first mini-computer kit. He stood there on the sidewalk, his breath making small clouds in the January air, and he looked at that picture for a long time. Not with excitement, exactly. More like recognition. Like seeing something you had been waiting for without knowing you were waiting. Let your hands relax now, if you can. Notice if they're clenched or tense or holding on to something they don't need to hold. Let them soften. Let your fingers uncurl. Let your palms grow heavy and still. The story continues, patient and unhurried. You don't need to grip it tightly. It will stay with you, gentle as lamplight, steady as the hum of a quiet machine. Paul brought the magazine to Bill's dormitory room that evening. The room was small and cluttered, as dormitory rooms tend to be. Books stacked on the desk, on the floor, on the narrow bed. A window that looked out onto the winter campus, bare trees and patches of snow. A radiator that clanked and hissed, pushing warmth into the cold air. Bill was at his desk when Paul arrived, working on something, papers spread before him in the pool of light from a small lamp. He looked up when the door opened, and Paul held out the magazine without saying anything. Bill took it. He looked at the cover, and then he sat down on the edge of the bed and began to read. The Altair 8800 was not much by modern standards. It had no screen, no keyboard, no way to store programs permanently. You programmed it by flipping switches on the front panel, entering instructions one at a time, in the language of ones and zeros that computers understand. It was tedious, painstaking work. But it was a computer. A real computer. Something you could own, something you could hold in your hands, something you could build yourself from a kit that cost less than $400. For people like Bill and Paul, who had spent years sharing time on large, expensive machines owned by schools and companies, this was something new, something that changed the shape of what was possible. You can let your shoulders drop now. Feel them settling, releasing whatever tension they've been carrying. Let them grow heavy. Let them rest. And your forehead. Notice if there are lines there, furrows of thought or worry. Let them smooth. Let your brow be calm and still, like the surface of a pond on a windless day. The two friends talked late into the night, passing the magazine back and forth, reading passages aloud, pointing at diagrams. The radiator clicked. The lamp glowed. Outside, snow began to fall, soft and silent, covering the world in white. They talked about the Altair, about what it could do, about what it couldn't do yet. And slowly, an idea began to form. The Altair, you see, could compute. It could add numbers and store information and follow instructions. But to make it do anything useful, you needed to speak its language. And its language, the language of ones and zeros, was difficult, tedious, prone to error. What the Altair needed was a translator. a way for people to give it instructions in something closer to ordinary words. What it needed was a programming language. A programming language is a little like a recipe book for a very patient, very literal cook. Imagine you wanted to tell someone how to make a cup of tea. You might say simply, "Make me some tea," and a person would understand. They would know to fill the kettle, to boil the water, to find a cup and a tea bag, to pour and steep and wait. But a computer doesn't understand, "Make me some tea." A computer needs every step spelled out, precisely in order. Fill the kettle with water. Place the kettle on the heat source. Wait until the water reaches boiling temperature. Remove the kettle. Pour the water into the cup. And so on, each action broken down into its smallest parts. A programming language sits between these two worlds. It lets you write instructions that are more natural than ones and zeros, but still precise enough for the computer to follow. It translates your words into the machine's language, step by careful step. In the dormitory room, with the snow falling outside and the radiator clicking its steady rhythm, Bill began to think about how to write such a language for the Altair. He had done this before, in a smaller way. He knew the patterns, the structures, the careful logic of it. But this would be different. This would be something complete, something whole, something that could make the Altair useful to ordinary people. He reached for a notebook and a pencil. The pencil was dull. He paused to sharpen it. The small shavings curling onto the desk. The smell of wood and graphite faint in the warm air. Then he began to write. You can drift now, if you like. Let the image of the room grow soft around the edges. Let the details fade. The notebook, the pencil, the falling snow, they're just shapes now, just impressions, just a gentle backdrop for your rest. The story will keep going. You don't need to follow every word. The work of writing a programming language is slow and patient. It's not like writing a story where you can let your imagination wander. Every line must be precise. Every instruction must connect to every other instruction in exactly the right way. One small error, a misplaced symbol, a forgotten step, and the whole thing fails to work. But there's a rhythm to it, once you find it. A kind of calm, repetitive satisfaction. Like placing tiles in a mosaic one by one, each one small and unremarkable on its own, but together forming something larger. Or like weaving threads on a loom, passing the shuttle back and forth, watching the pattern slowly emerge. Bill worked through the night, filling pages with notes, crossing things out, starting again. Paul sat nearby, reading the technical specifications for the Altair's processor, looking up occasionally to answer a question or offer a thought. The lamp glowed. The snow fell. The radiator clicked. And slowly, line by line, something began to take shape. Let your breathing find its own rhythm now. You don't need to control it. You don't need to count it or measure it. Just let it happen. Easy and natural, like the rise and fall of waves on a quiet shore. In through the nose, out through the mouth, or however feels right. However feels easy. The days that followed were full of this quiet work. Bill would sit at his desk for hours, writing code on yellow legal pads, his pencil moving in quick, confident strokes. Every now and then he would stop, stare at what he had written, rock gently back and forth as he thought. Then he would cross something out, or add something in the margin, or tear out the page and start fresh. Paul worked on a different piece of the puzzle. He was building a tool, a program that would run on the larger computers at Harvard that would help translate the code Bill was writing into something the Altair could understand. It was technical, detailed work, the kind of work he loved, where every piece had to fit precisely with every other piece. They worked separately, mostly, but in the same orbit, meeting for meals, passing in the hallways, sitting together in the evenings to compare notes, to puzzle through problems, to make sure their pieces would fit together when the time came. Imagine the scene in that quiet room. The desk covered in papers, some neat and orderly, others crumpled and discarded. The lamp casting its warm circle of light. The window dark now, reflecting the room back on itself, a mirror of concentration and calm. On the desk, next to the papers, a mug of coffee gone cold. A half-eaten sandwich, forgotten. A pencil worn down to a stub, replaced by another from a cup nearby. And the sound of keys when Bill moved to the computer terminal to test something. Click, click, click. A pause. Then more clicking. The rhythm of thought made audible, steady and patient. There's a particular feeling that comes with this kind of work. Not excitement, exactly. Something quieter. A kind of absorption where the world outside falls away and all that exists is the problem in front of you. The lines of code. The logic of it. The slow, satisfying puzzle of making something work. You forget to eat. You forget what time it is. You look up and hours have passed, and you're not quite sure where they went, but you don't mind because you're closer now. Closer to the solution. Closer to the moment when the pieces finally fit. Let your body sink a little deeper now. Feel the surface beneath you, holding you, supporting your weight completely. You don't have to hold yourself up. You can let go. Let gravity do its work. Let yourself be held. The story continues, soft and steady, like the lamplight, like the hum of the machine, like the snow falling silently outside the window. After weeks of work, the code was nearly finished. It was called BASIC, the same language Bill and Paul had learned years ago on the teletype machine at Lakeside, now rebuilt from scratch, adapted for this small new computer. Thousands of lines of careful instructions, each one tested and refined, each one a tile in the mosaic. But there was a problem. They had never actually seen an Altair. They didn't own one. Everything they had written was based on the technical specifications in the magazine, on their understanding of how the machine worked. They wouldn't know if their code actually ran until they tried it on a real Altair. And the only Altairs in existence were in Albuquerque, New Mexico, at the small company that made them. So they decided to reach out. Paul called the company, MITS it was called, a small operation run out of a building in a strip mall. He told them he had a version of BASIC that would run on their computer. Would they like to see it? They would. A demonstration was arranged. Paul would fly to Albuquerque, bring the code, and show them what it could do. The days before the trip were quiet and focused. There was testing to do, refinements to make, details to check, and double-check. Paul would need to carry the code with him, and the way you carried code in those days was on paper tape. Long strips of paper punched with holes, each hole representing a 1, each blank space representing a 0. Miles of information, wound around a small spool, light enough to hold in your hand. Bill worked through the final details, running tests late into the night, making adjustments, making sure everything was right. Paul prepared for the journey, gathering what he would need, thinking through what might go wrong and how to handle it. The lamp glowed. The machine hummed. The snow had stopped falling, and the world outside was still and white, waiting. And you are still here, resting, breathing, held by the quiet of this moment. The demonstration is coming. The journey to Albuquerque, the small office in the strip mall, the moment when the code would finally meet the machine it was written for. But that's for the next part of our story together. For now, just rest. Just let the night hold you. Just feel your breath, slow and steady, carrying you gently towards sleep. The mosaic is taking shape, one tile at a time. The tapestry is being woven, one thread at a time. And you are here, safe and warm, drifting in the gentle space between waking and dreaming. Small rooms, steady work. The airplane descended through clouds toward Albuquerque. Paul sat by the window, watching the landscape emerge below, brown and tan and rust-colored, the high desert of New Mexico, so different from the gray-green of the Pacific Northwest, so different from the snow-covered streets of Boston he had left that morning. In his bag, wrapped carefully in cloth, was a spool of paper tape. Thin and light, wound tight, punched with thousands of tiny holes. Each hole a 1. Each blank space a 0. Together, they formed the code he and Bill had spent weeks writing, the language that would, if everything worked, make the Altair useful. He hadn't slept much on the flight. He had been thinking, going over the code in his mind, wondering if they had missed something, wondering what would happen when the tape finally met the machine. It's okay if you're drifting now. It's okay if the airplane and the desert and the paper tape are becoming soft and blurry, like a dream you're not quite in. The story will hold you. It doesn't need your full attention. It just needs you to rest. The offices of MITS were not impressive. They occupied a small space in a strip mall, sandwiched between other businesses, a massage parlor, a laundromat, the ordinary commerce of an ordinary street. The building was low and flat, with a parking lot in front and a sign that didn't stand out particularly. Inside, it was cluttered. Workbenches covered with circuit boards and soldering irons. Boxes of components stacked against the walls. The smell of solder and warm electronics, that particular scent of machines being built by hand. A few people worked at the benches, focused on their tasks. They looked up when Paul came in, nodded, went back to their work. This was not a place of ceremony or formality. It was a workshop, a place where things were made. Paul met with the founder, a man named Ed Roberts, in a small office at the back. The office was simple, a desk, some chairs, papers everywhere. Ed was a large man, friendly, with the kind of practical energy that comes from building things yourself. He had started MITS years ago, selling calculator kits through the mail, and now he was trying something bigger. Something that might change everything, or might not work at all. They talked for a while about the Altair, about what it could do, about what Paul and Bill had built. The conversation was calm, unhurried. Two people discussing a shared interest, feeling out whether they might work together. And then it was time to try the code. Let your jaw relax now if it's holding any tension. Let your tongue rest gently in your mouth. Let your lips be soft. These small releases, these tiny letting goes, they add up. They make space for rest. They make space for sleep to find you. The Altair sat on a table in the main room. It looked just like the picture in the magazine, a metal box with rows of switches and lights, cables trailing from the back, a terminal connected by wire so you could see what the computer was thinking. Paul took out the paper tape, unwound it carefully, fed it into the tape reader. The reader began to pull the tape through, slowly, reading the holes, translating them into the ones and zeros the computer understood. It took a long time. Minutes that felt longer. The tape inched through the machine, and everyone watched, and no one said much. And then, on the terminal screen, words appeared. Memory size? The computer was asking a question. The code was running. It worked. Paul typed a response. More words appeared. A prompt, waiting for instructions. Ready. You don't need to remember any of this. You don't need to hold on to the details. The tape reader, the terminal, the word ready blinking on the screen. They're just images, just impressions, passing through like clouds across a quiet sky. Let them pass. Let them drift. Let yourself drift with them. The demonstration was a success. Not a dramatic success, not the kind that would make headlines. Just a quiet proof that something worked. The two young men in Boston had written code for a machine they had never seen, and the code ran, and the machine did what it was told. Ed Roberts was pleased. He wanted the software. He wanted to offer it to everyone who bought an Altair, so they could write programs in BASIC, instead of flipping switches and entering ones and zeros by hand. They talked about terms, how much the software would cost, how the money would be shared, what the arrangement would look like. Simple conversations, practical conversations, the kind that turn ideas into agreements. And by the time Paul flew back to Boston, there was a deal. Not a grand contract, not a corporate merger. Just a handshake, a shared understanding, a beginning. Bill and Paul needed a name. They had been calling their partnership different things. Paul Allen and Bill Gates, Gates and Allen, various combinations that didn't quite stick. But if they were going to sell software, if they were going to be a real company, they needed something more official. They settled on Microsoft. 2 words, joined by a hyphen. Micro for microcomputer. Soft for software. Simple, descriptive, practical. Later, they would drop the hyphen, push the words together. Microsoft. But for now, it was Microsoft, typed on letterheads and contracts, the name of something new and small and just beginning. It's okay if you're not following every word. It's okay if the name floats past you, if the details of contracts and agreements seem far away and unimportant. They are far away. They are part of a story, and stories don't need to be held tightly. They just need to be heard, softly, gently, like rain on a window. The two friends moved to Albuquerque. It made sense to be near MITS, near the machines they were writing software for, near the small community of people who cared about these things. They found a place to work, a modest office, nothing fancy. A room with desks and chairs and the equipment they needed. The room was not so different from the basement we keep returning to. Small, quiet, a place where the work could happen undisturbed. There was a window that looked out onto the parking lot, and beyond that, the wide New Mexico sky, blue during the day, filled with stars at night. The air was dry and clear, different from Seattle, different from Boston. It took some getting used to. Let's stay in that room for a while. Imagine the desks, pushed together so they face each other. Papers spread across them, notes in pencil, printouts covered in marks, reference manuals with pages folded down at important sections. Imagine the computers, the terminals, humming their quiet hums. The keyboards waiting for fingers. The screens glowing softly in the dim light. And imagine the two young men working. Not talking much. Just focused on their tasks, each one absorbed in their own piece of the puzzle. The work was slow and patient. Writing software is like stitching a quilt. in some ways. Each line of code is a single stitch, small and precise. You make one stitch, then another, then another. You check your work. You find mistakes and fix them. You keep going, row by row, until the pattern is complete. Or like weaving. The shuttle passes back and forth, carrying the thread. The fabric grows, slowly, one row at a time. You can't rush it. You can only keep going, steady and patient, trusting that the work will add up. Bill would write code for hours, filling yellow legal pads with notes before typing anything into the computer. His handwriting was quick and messy, hard for anyone else to read, but he could follow it. He knew what it meant. Paul would test what Bill wrote, looking for errors, for places where the logic didn't quite work. He had a careful eye, a patience for detail. He would find something wrong, make a note, and they would fix it together. Feel your hands resting now, wherever they are. Feel the weight of them, this stillness. You don't need to do anything with them. You don't need to hold on to anything. Just let them be, heavy and warm and still. The days fell into a rhythm. Wake up. Go to the office. Work. Eat something, eventually. Work more. Go home, late, when the parking lot was dark and the sky was full of stars. Sleep. Wake up. Do it again. It sounds monotonous, maybe. But there was something satisfying in it. Something peaceful. The same rhythm every day. The same quiet focus. The same slow progress. The code grew. The software improved. Bugs were found and fixed. Features were added. Rough edges were smoothed. Like polishing a stone, turning it over and over in your hands, wearing away the imperfections. You don't need to keep track of time. You don't need to know how many days passed, how many weeks, how many months. Time moves differently in stories. It moves differently when you're drifting toward sleep. Just let the rhythm carry you. The rhythm of the work. The rhythm of your breathing. The rhythm of words, soft and steady, like a lullaby. Other people joined, eventually. A few at first, then a few more. Programmers, mostly. People who loved the same puzzles, who felt the same satisfaction in making something work. They set up desks in the office, added their own papers to the piles, brought their own coffee cups and their own habits. The room got a little more crowded, a little louder, but it was still small, still modest, still the kind of place where you could focus on the work without distraction. And the work continued. Code, tests, small improvements. Code, tests, small improvements. Like breathing, like heartbeat. Like this steady rhythm of a machine doing what it was built to do. At night, when the office was empty, the computers would still be running. Their fans humming softly in the darkness. Their lights blinking in slow patterns, processing something, saving something, waiting for morning. And if you had been there, standing in that quiet room, you would have felt it, the presence of something being built. Not finished yet, not anywhere close to finished, but real, growing, taking shape one line of code at a time. Microsoft was a company now. A small company, a tiny company, barely more than a handful of people in a rented office in Albuquerque. But it was real. It had a name and customers and software that worked. It had a rhythm, a routine, a way of doing things. And every day, the work continued. Patient, steady, unhurried. Feel your body sinking now, just a little deeper. Feel the weight of yourself, supported and held. The surface beneath you, cradling you. The darkness behind your eyes, soft and welcoming. The company is real now. The work goes on. Code, tests, small improvements, like stitching, like weaving, like placing tiles in a mosaic that will take years to complete. And you are here, resting, breathing, letting the night fold gently around you. The rhythm continues. Steady as a heartbeat. Steady as the hum of a quiet machine. Steady as your own slow breath, carrying you softly towards sleep. The quiet spread. Time passed as time does. Not in leaps, but in small accumulations. The office in Albuquerque grew a little fuller. Another desk appeared, then another. New faces joined the familiar ones, programmers drawn by the same quiet fascination, the same love of puzzles and patterns. Each new person brought their own habits, their own rhythms. One liked to work early, arriving before dawn when the desert air was still cool. Another preferred the late hours, staying long after everyone else had gone, the office silent, except for the hum of machines and the soft click of keys. They learned to work around each other, to share the space, the equipment, the problems, to leave notes for each other on scraps of paper, explaining what they had tried, what had worked, what still needed fixing. Let yourself drift with this image if you like. The quiet office, the scattered notes, the gentle rhythm of people working together, not always talking, just present, sharing a purpose, building something one small piece at a time. You don't need to follow every detail. You don't need to remember who did what. Just let the picture form loosely, like watercolors bleeding softly into damp paper. More computers appeared in the world in those years. Not just the Altair, but others. The Commodore PT, the Apple II, the TRS-80. Different shapes, different names, but all of them small machines that ordinary people could own. Each one needed software. Each one was a new puzzle to solve. Microsoft wrote BASIC for them, one by one, adapting the language, adjusting it to fit each machine's particular way of thinking. The work was repetitive in some ways, similar problems, similar solutions, but each version was a little different, a little new. It was like making the same recipe for different kitchens. The ingredients were similar, but every stove worked a little differently. Every set of tools had its quirks. You had to pay attention. You had to adjust. The company moved. Not far at first, just to a larger office, still in Albuquerque, with more room for the growing team. Then, a few years later, back to the Pacific Northwest, to a suburb of Seattle called Bellevue, closer to home for Bill and Paul. Closer to family, to familiar gray skies and green trees and the smell of rain. The new office was still modest. A low building in a business park surrounded by parking lots and other low buildings. But it had space, room to grow, room for more desks, more people, more work. Take a slow breath now. In through your nose, gentle and easy. Feel your lungs expand, your ribs lift slightly. Hold it for just a moment, not tightly, just a pause, and then let it go. Out through your mouth, soft, slow. One more, if you like. In, pause, out. Good. The story continues, unhurried, patient as your breath. Let's return to the basement for a moment. Not the office in Bellevue, but the basement we keep coming back to. The quiet room with the wooden desk and the green shaded lamp. The papers scattered across the surface. The machine humming softly in the corner. This basement is always here, in the story, and in your imagination. A place of stillness. A place where the work happens, undisturbed. The lamp is glowing, casting its warm circle of light. Outside, it's night. You can tell by the darkness pressing against the small window near the ceiling. Perhaps there's rain tapping gently on the glass. Perhaps just the quiet of a sleeping neighborhood, the occasional distant sound of a car passing. The air is cool, the way basement air is. But the lamp is warm. The machine is warm, radiating the gentle heat of electricity doing its work. You can feel both, the coolness on your arms, the warmth near the desk. A balance, a comfort. In the late 1970s, something changed. A company called IBM, large, established, respected, decided to build a personal computer. Not a hobbyist machine, not a kit you assembled yourself, but a real product, something businesses might buy, something that might sit on desks in offices around the world. IBM needed software for this computer. Specifically, they needed something called an operating system. An operating system is like a quiet manager working behind the scenes. Imagine a busy household. There are many tasks to do. Cooking, cleaning, organizing, fetching things from storage. And there are many people who want things done. But someone needs to coordinate. Someone needs to make sure the kitchen is free when dinner needs to be made, that the cleaning supplies are put back where they belong, that everyone gets what they need without chaos. That's what an operating system does for a computer. It manages the memory, the storage, the connections between different parts. It keeps track of what's happening and makes sure everything runs smoothly. Without it, the computer would be like a household with no coordination, capable, perhaps, but confused. It's okay if this explanation drifts past you. You don't need to understand operating systems to rest. You don't need to hold on to the metaphor. It's just a shape, a gentle way of describing something complicated. Let it be soft and simple in your mind, or let it fade entirely. The story will keep going, with or without the details. IBM came to Microsoft with a question. Could they provide an operating system for the new computer? It was a significant moment, though it didn't feel dramatic at the time. Just a conversation, just a problem to solve. Microsoft didn't have an operating system ready. They had been focused on programming languages, on BASIC and its variations. But they knew someone who did. A small company nearby had built something called QDOS, Quick and Dirty Operating System, a name that sounds casual but describes something functional, something that worked. Microsoft bought it for a modest sum and set to work improving it. Here was the puzzle. The operating system needed to be better, more reliable, more polished. It needed to work perfectly with IBM's new hardware, to be ready in time, to be good enough for a company that didn't accept anything less than good enough. The team worked on it quietly, methodically. They found problems and fixed them. They rewrote sections that didn't work well. They tested and tested again, running the software through every scenario they could imagine, looking for the places where it might fail. When something went wrong, and things went wrong often in those early days, they didn't panic. They just looked at the problem, talked it through, figured out what had happened and how to fix it. A line rewritten, a logic error corrected, a small adjustment that made everything work again. Feel your shoulders now. Are they creeping up toward your ears? Let them drop. Let them settle. Feel the weight of your arms, hanging loose, pulling gently down. And your hands. Let them be still. Let them be soft, heavy and warm and completely at rest. The operating system was called MS-DOS. The MS stood for Microsoft. The DOS stood for Disk Operating System, a technical term that doesn't matter much now. What mattered was that it worked. And when IBM released their personal computer in August of 1981, MS-DOS was there, running quietly behind the scenes, managing the memory and the storage and the connections, making everything possible. The IBM personal computer was a success. Not an explosion, not overnight, but steady. Businesses bought it. Then more businesses. People saw it on desks, in offices, in banks, in schools. It became familiar, expected, normal. And other companies noticed. They began building computers that worked the same way as IBM's, compatible machines, clones, alternatives. Cheaper, sometimes. Different brands, different designs, but they all needed the same software. They all needed MS-DOS. This is how things spread, sometimes. Not through announcements or advertisements, but through quiet adoption. One person uses something. Another person sees it, finds it useful, uses it too. The circle widens slowly, like ripples on a still pond. Microsoft's software was spreading. Not just BASIC anymore, but DOS, the quiet manager, running on more and more machines. In offices and homes. In schools and libraries. In places Bill and Paul had never imagined when they sat together in that dormitory room reading about the Altair in a magazine. Let yourself sink a little deeper now. Feel the surface beneath you, supporting every part of your body. You don't have to hold yourself up. You don't have to do anything at all. Just rest. Just breathe. Just let the night hold you. Back in the basement, the lamp is still glowing. The papers on the desk have changed. New problems, new projects, but the rhythm is the same. The quiet focus. The patient work. The soft click of keys, the scratch of pencil on paper, the long silences of concentration. The machine in the corner hums its steady hum. Outside, the rain has stopped, or maybe it never started. The night is quiet, deep, still. And somewhere, in offices and homes around the world, computers are running. Their screens glow softly. Their fans hum. They wait for instructions, ready to help, ready to work. Microsoft was growing. More people, more products, more complexity. But at the center, it was still the same thing, software. Instructions for machines. Patterns of logic, carefully constructed, tested, refined. Tiles in a mosaic. Threads in a tapestry. Stitches in a quilt that was growing larger every day. The work continued. Code, tests, small improvements. Code, tests, small improvements. The rhythm never stopped, never changed. Steady as breathing. Steady as heartbeat. Steady as the hum of a quiet machine in a quiet room. And the software was becoming something people relied on. Not always knowing it. Not always thinking about it. But there, underneath, making things work. When someone typed a document, the operating system managed the keystrokes. When someone saved a file, the operating system found a place to store it. When someone turned on their computer in the morning, the operating system woke up first, quiet and ready, preparing everything for the day ahead. It was entering everyday life, this software. Becoming part of the background, the infrastructure, the invisible foundation that people built their work upon. You can let go now if you haven't already. Let go of the story. Let go of the details. Let go of the names and dates and technical explanations. They've done their work, carrying you here to this quiet place, this restful moment. The lamp is still glowing. The machine is still humming. The basement is still here, patient and peaceful whenever you want to return. And somewhere, in the vast quiet of the night, software is running, doing its work, asking nothing of you. Just rest now. Just breathe. Let the steady rhythm carry you, gentle as a lullaby, soft as the rain that might be falling somewhere, steady as the light from a green-shaded lamp in a quiet room where the work never really stops. But the workers, sometimes, are allowed to sleep. Windows and light. The basement is still here. Close your eyes, if they aren't closed already, and let yourself return to that quiet room. The wooden desk. The green-shaded lamp, glowing warm and steady. The papers scattered across the surface, evidence of work in progress. The machine in the corner, humming its soft, constant hum. Outside, the night is deep and still. Inside, there is only the gentle rhythm of thought, of creation, of patient problem-solving. This is where we always come back. This is where the story lives. In the early 1980s, computers were powerful, but not particularly friendly. To use one, you had to type commands. Precise commands, spelled correctly, in the right order. The computer would respond with text, words on a screen, glowing green or amber against black. It worked, but it required a certain kind of attention, a certain willingness to learn the machine's language. Not everyone wanted to learn that language. Not everyone had the time, or the patience, or the inclination. For many people, computers remained mysterious, intimidating, something for specialists. But there was another way. Imagine a desk, not a computer desk, but an ordinary desk in an ordinary office. On this desk, there are things you might recognize. A notepad, a folder full of documents, a calculator, a calendar, perhaps a photograph in a frame, or a small plant, or a cup holding pens and pencils. These things are familiar. You know how to use them without thinking about it. You pick up the notepad when you want to write something. You open the folder when you need a document. You don't have to memorize commands or learn special languages. You just reach out and use what you need. What if a computer could work the same way? This was the idea behind something called a graphical interface. Instead of typing commands, you would look at a screen filled with small pictures, icons they were called. Pictures of folders and documents and tools. And instead of typing, you would use a small device called a mouse, moving it with your hand, pointing at the pictures, clicking to open them. It sounds simple now. It sounds obvious. But at the time, it was a different way of thinking about computers entirely. Let the details soften now, if you need them to. You don't have to understand graphical interfaces, or mice, or icons. They're just words, just shapes. Let them blur at the edges, like a landscape seen through a rain-streaked window. The story continues, gentle and patient, asking nothing of you but rest. Microsoft began working on their own version of this idea. They called it Windows. The name was simple, descriptive. On the screen, you could open different programs, and each one appeared in its own rectangle, its own window. You could have several windows open at once, overlapping like papers on a desk. You could move them around, resize them, close them when you were done. It was a way of making the computer feel more like something you already knew. More like that desk with its folders and notepads and familiar objects. The first version of Windows was released in 1985. It was not perfect. It was slow. It was limited. It didn't do everything people hoped it would do. Some reviewers were disappointed. Some customers were confused. This could have been discouraging. It could have felt like failure. But the people at Microsoft saw it differently. They saw a beginning, a foundation, something to build upon, to improve, to refine. Here was a puzzle, like all the others. Windows wasn't good enough yet, so they would make it better. One problem at a time, one improvement at a time. They would listen to what people said, pay attention to what didn't work, and fix it. A programmer would find a piece of code that ran too slowly, and she would rewrite it, testing and adjusting until it ran faster. A designer would notice that a button was confusing, and he would move it, try a different shape, see if that helped. A tester would discover a bug, a place where the software did something unexpected, and they would track it down, find the error, correct it. Small fixes, small improvements. The patient work of making something better, piece by piece. Feel your forehead now. Is there tension there? Lines of concentration, or worry, or thought? Let them smooth. Let your brow be calm and open like a clear sky. And your jaw. Let it relax. Let your teeth part slightly. Let your whole face be soft and still. Windows improved. Version after version, year after year. Windows 2.0. Windows 3.0. Each one a little faster, a little more capable, a little easier to use. The rectangles on the screen became more colorful, more intuitive. The mouse became more natural in people's hands. The whole experience became smoother, more familiar. And more people began to use it. Not just specialists, not just enthusiasts, ordinary people in ordinary offices doing ordinary work. Writing letters, making spreadsheets, keeping track of things. There were challenges, of course. Other companies were building similar things. Competition, it's called, though the word sounds more dramatic than the reality often felt. Mostly, it meant that everyone was trying to solve the same problems, and sometimes one company found a better solution, and sometimes another did. You paid attention. You learned. You kept working. And there were disagreements. Different people with different ideas about what Windows should be, how it should work, what mattered most. Sometimes these disagreements were frustrating. Sometimes they slowed things down. But they also made the work better, in the end. When people with different perspectives talk through a problem, really listen to each other, try to understand, the solution that emerges is often stronger than anything one person could have found alone. It's okay if you're drifting now. It's okay if the challenges and the competition and the disagreements seem far away, like sounds from another room. They are far away. They're part of the past, part of a story that's already been told. You're here now, in the quiet, in the stillness. That's all that matters. Let's return to the basement. Late at night, the lamp casting its warm circle of light on the desk. The rest of the room in shadow, soft and dark. The machine humming, as it always hums, steady and patient. Someone is working at the desk. It doesn't matter who, a programmer, a tester, a designer. Someone who cares about the details, who finds satisfaction in getting things right. They're looking at a screen, at a window, both kinds, the kind on the monitor and the kind in the software. Something isn't quite right. A button doesn't line up. A color seems off. A small thing, but small things matter. They make an adjustment. Check the result. Make another adjustment. Check again. The night is quiet around them. The world is asleep. But here, in this small pool of light, the work continues. Patient, steady, unhurried. By the mid-1990s, Windows had become something remarkable. Not because it was perfect, it wasn't. Not because it was the only option, it wasn't. But because it was everywhere. On desks, in offices, in homes, in schools. Millions of screens all showing those familiar rectangles, those familiar icons, that familiar way of working. Windows 95 was released in August of that year, and people lined up to buy it. Actual lines outside actual stores. It was unusual for software. It suggested that something had changed, that computers had become something people wanted, not just something they needed. Take a slow breath now. In through your nose. Feel the air fill your lungs, cool and clean. Hold it for just a moment, and then release, soft and easy, out through your mouth. One more, if you like. In, hold, out. The breath carries you. It asks nothing of you. It simply continues, steady and reliable, like the hum of a quiet machine. Microsoft made other things, too, in those years. Programs for writing documents. Word, it was called. A simple name for a useful tool. Programs for making spreadsheets. Excel, for organizing numbers and calculations. Programs for creating presentations, for managing email, for doing all the tasks that people needed to do in their work. Together, these programs were called Office. Another simple name. A suite of tools, bundled together, designed to help people get their work done. And slowly, quietly, these tools became companions. Not exciting companions, not dramatic ones, just steady, reliable presences. The program you opened every morning when you sat down at your desk. The familiar interface you knew without thinking about. The way you wrote your letters, tracked your numbers, organized your thoughts. They became ordinary. And in becoming ordinary, they became essential. Part of the background of daily life, like electricity, like running water. Something you used without noticing until you needed it. And there it was. Let the details blur now. Let Windows and Word and Excel become soft shapes, gentle sounds. Names you've heard, tools you might have used, but nothing you need to hold on to. Nothing you need to remember. The story is winding down for now, settling like dust in a quiet room, coming to rest like you are coming to rest. In homes, families use these tools to write letters to distant relatives, to help children with homework, to manage household budgets on simple spreadsheets. The computer sat in a corner of a room, a den, a spare bedroom, a kitchen counter, and became part of the household, as familiar as the television or the telephone. In offices, people stopped thinking about the software at all. It was just there, like the desk and the chair and the lamp. You turned on the computer, you opened your programs, you did your work. The tools had become invisible in the best way, so natural, so intuitive that you forgot they were tools at all. The basement is quiet now. The lamp still glows, but lower, softer. The papers on the desk have been straightened, stacked, put aside for tomorrow. The machine still hums, but gentler, as if it too is settling down for the night. This is where the work happens. This is where it has always happened. And this is where it will continue, tomorrow and the day after and the day after that. Patient. Steady. One small improvement at a time. But for now, the work is done. For now, there is only rest. Feel your body, heavy and still. Feel the surface beneath you, holding you completely. Feel the darkness behind your eyes, soft and welcoming. The tools are there whenever you need them. The software is running, quiet and reliable. The world is full of screens and windows and programs doing their work, asking nothing of you. And you are here, in the quiet, in the stillness, drifting gently towards sleep. The lamp glows on. The machine hums softly. The night holds everything, patient and kind. Rest now. Just rest. Ordinary mornings. Begin with your feet. Notice them now, wherever they are. Feel the weight of them, the warmth, or the coolness. Let them be heavy. Let them sink into whatever is beneath them, the mattress, the floor, the soft folds of a blanket. Now your legs, your calves, your thighs. Feel the muscles there and let them soften. Let them release whatever tension they've been holding. You don't need to stand. You don't need to walk anywhere. You can just rest. Your hips, your lower back, let them settle. Let gravity do its work, pulling you gently downward into stillness, into ease. Your shoulders, they've carried so much today and the days before. Let them drop now. Let them be heavy and low and completely at peace. And your face, your jaw, your cheeks, your forehead. Let everything smooth and soften like a pond growing still after the wind has stopped. You are held. You are safe. The story continues, gentle and slow. A kitchen, early in the morning. The light is gray through the window, not yet sunrise, but close. The house is quiet. Everyone else is still sleeping or just beginning to stir. The coffee maker hisses softly, filling the room with warmth and the smell of something familiar. A woman sits at the table, a laptop open in front of her. The screen glows, a soft rectangle of light in the dim room. She's not doing anything remarkable. Just checking email. Just seeing what the day holds. Her fingers move across the keys, quiet and practiced, a motion she's made thousands of times. There's a comfort in this, a ritual. The same chair, the same table, the same soft glow of the screen. The coffee brewing, the world slowly waking up. A few minutes of quiet before the day begins. The laptop doesn't matter, really. It's just there, like the table and the chair and the window with the gray light coming through. A tool, familiar and unremarkable. She doesn't think about it any more than she thinks about the mug in her hand or the floor beneath her feet. What matters is the moment. The stillness, the small ritual of morning, repeated day after day, reliable as the sunrise. It's okay to drift now. Let the kitchen fade. Let the woman and her laptop become soft shapes, gentle impressions. You don't need to hold on to them. They're just a scene, a moment, passing through like clouds across a quiet sky. Somewhere else, a student sits at a desk. The desk is cluttered. Notebooks, textbooks, a half-empty water bottle, pens scattered like fallen twigs. A lamp casts warm light across the papers. Outside the window, it's evening, the sky fading from blue to purple to black. The student is writing an essay. The words come slowly at first, then faster, then slowly again. She pauses, reads what she's written, frowns slightly, deletes a sentence, tries again. The cursor blinks, patient and steady, waiting for her to find the right words. This is how it goes. The thinking, the trying, the not quite right, the trying again. It's not glamorous work. It's not exciting, but there's something satisfying in it. The gradual shaping of thoughts into sentences, the slow construction of meaning. The program she's using doesn't matter. It's just a space for words, a blank page that accepts whatever she types and holds it safe. She's used it so many times that she doesn't notice it anymore. It's become invisible, like the air she breathes. Just there. Just working. Just helping her do what she needs to do. She finishes a paragraph, saves the file, a small action, almost unconscious, a habit built over years. The computer makes no sound, gives no acknowledgement. It simply does what she asked, quiet and reliable. Let your breathing find its own rhythm. You don't need to control it. You don't need to count or measure. Just let it happen, easy and natural, like waves on a shore you can't quite see but can always hear, somewhere in the distance. In a small office above a shop, a man is looking at numbers. The office is cramped but tidy. A calendar on the wall. A plant on the windowsill, a little droopy, needing water. The desk is covered in papers, but there's an order to them. Invoices in one stack, receipts in another, notes in a small notebook with a worn cover. On the screen in front of him, rows and columns. Numbers that represent things. Sales and expenses. Money coming in and money going out. The story of a small business, told in digits and decimal points. He's not a numbers person, really. He never liked math in school. But he's learned to use this tool, to let it do the calculations for him, to trust it to keep track of things he'd otherwise forget. It's become part of his routine, like opening the shop in the morning and closing it at night. He enters a few figures, watches the totals update automatically, nods to himself. Things are okay. Things are steady. The shop will keep going, at least for now. The spreadsheet is just a grid. Just rows and columns, waiting to be filled. It doesn't know what the numbers mean. It doesn't know about the shop, the customers, the years of work that went into building something small and real. It just holds what he gives it, organizes it, calculates what needs calculating. a tool, nothing more. But in his hands, it becomes something useful, something that helps. You can let the details blur now. The kitchen, the student, the small office above the shop. They're all part of the same quiet tapestry, the same gentle rhythm of ordinary life. People doing what they need to do, using what they have, getting by. The story continues, soft and slow. You don't need to follow it closely. You just need to rest. A family gathers around a screen. It's a Sunday afternoon, and the living room is warm with winter light. The children are restless, wiggling on the couch, but they settle when the face appears. Grandma, miles and miles away, in a different city, a different time zone, but here now, somehow, on the screen. "Can you see me?" she asks, and the children wave, and she waves back, and for a moment, the distance doesn't matter. For a moment, she's in the room with them, laughing at a joke, asking about school, showing them the cat that just walked across her keyboard. The connection isn't perfect. Sometimes the picture freezes, or the sound cuts out, or there's a strange delay between question and answer. But it works. Mostly. Enough to feel something like together, something like close. The technology that makes this possible is complicated. Signals and servers, cables and codes, information traveling at speeds too fast to imagine. But the family doesn't think about any of that. They just see Grandma. They just hear her voice. They just feel, for a little while, like the miles between them have shrunk to nothing. The screen is just a window. What matters is what's on the other side. Feel your body again, if you can. Heavy and still, sinking into the surface beneath you. Your feet, your legs, your arms and hands resting wherever they've come to rest. You don't need to move. You don't need to do anything. Just be here, in this moment, letting the night hold you. All of these moments, the kitchen in the morning, the student at her desk, the shop owner with his numbers, the family gathered around a screen, they're connected in a way. Connected by quiet threads, invisible threads. The work of people in quiet rooms, years ago and still today. The patient construction of tools that help other people do what they need to do. It all traces back, if you follow the threads far enough. Back to small offices and late nights. Back to code written and rewritten, tested and fixed. Back to the steady rhythm of improvement, one small piece at a time. Back to the basement. The basement is still here. It's always been here, underneath everything. The quiet room with the wooden desk and the green shaded lamp. The papers and the notes and the machine humming softly in the corner. The work that happened here is still happening somewhere in rooms we'll never see, made all those other moments possible. The morning coffee and the student's essay and the small business and the family on a Sunday afternoon. Not because the work was dramatic or heroic, just because it was steady, patient, done with care, day after day, year after year. Let yourself return to the basement now. Feel the cool air, the stillness, the warmth of the lamp, casting its gentle circle of light. The desk is clear, the papers put away. The machine is quiet, resting. The night outside is deep and dark, the kind of darkness that wraps around you like a blanket, soft and safe. There's nothing left to do. The work is done, for now. Tomorrow there will be more. There's always more. But tomorrow is far away, and tonight is for rest. The whole story settles, like dust in a still room. All the years, all the versions, all the small improvements and quiet fixes. The two young friends who started with a magazine and a spool of paper tape. The offices in Albuquerque and Bellevue and places around the world. The millions of screens, the billions of keystrokes, the uncountable moments when someone, somewhere, used a tool to do something that mattered to them. It all settles. It all grows quiet. It all comes to rest, here in the basement, in the lamplight, in the gentle hum of machines dreaming their electric dreams. And you are here too, resting, breathing, letting go. The lamp glows on, soft and steady, but you don't need to watch it anymore. You can close your eyes. You can let the darkness come. The basement will be here. The story will be here. Whenever you want to return, it will be waiting, patient, and kind. But for now, just sleep. Just breathe. Just let the night carry you, gentle as a river, slow as the turning of stars you can't see but know are there, somewhere above you, keeping their ancient watch. Rest now. The lamp dims. The hum fades. The basement grows quiet. And you drift finally into peace, settling into stillness. The story is nearly done now. Not because it's over. Stories like this never really end, but because you don't need any more of it. You've traveled far enough. You've seen enough. Now it's time to rest. Let's remember, softly, what we've seen together. A quiet basement. A wooden desk. A green shaded lamp casting warm light on scattered papers. A machine humming in the corner, patient and steady. Two young people who loved puzzles, who sat together in quiet rooms, turning problems over in their minds, finding solutions one small step at a time. Small computers. Simple code. Lines of instruction, written and rewritten, tested and fixed. The patient work of making something useful, piece by piece, like placing tiles in a mosaic. And then, slowly, growth. More people, more tools, software that spread quietly into the world, into offices and homes, into the ordinary moments of ordinary lives. Becoming invisible, becoming essential, becoming part of the background, like lamplight, like the hum of a fan. You don't need to hold on to any of this. You can let the names fade, the dates, the details. They've done their work carrying you here to this quiet place. Now you can let them go, like leaves falling from a tree, drifting softly to the ground. Let your breath slow now, slow like the steady hum of the fan in the basement, slow like the lamplight, constant and warm, slow like the rain that might be falling outside, each drop taking its time to reach the ground. Breathe in, gentle and easy. Feel your chest rise. Breathe out, soft and slow. Feel your chest settle. In, out, in, out. There's no hurry. There's nowhere else to be. Just this breath, and the next, and the next. Let's move through your body now, gently, like dimming lights in a house that's settling down for the night. Begin with your feet. Feel them resting, wherever they are. Feel the weight of them. Let them be heavy, completely supported. Your feet can be as still as the floor of the basement, solid and grounded, holding everything up without effort. Now your calves, your shins. Let the muscles there soften. Let them release. You don't need to stand. You don't need to walk. You can let go of all that readiness, all that tension. Your legs can rest now, quiet as the shadows in the corners of the room. Your knees, your thighs, heavy, warm, sinking into whatever is beneath them. Your legs can settle like papers coming to rest on the desk, finding their place, growing still. Your hips, your lower back. This is where so much is carried, so much is held. Let it release now. Let gravity take it. Your body can feel anchored and still in the gentle lamplight, supported completely, asking nothing of you. Your belly. Let it soften. Let it rise and fall with your breath, easy and natural. No holding. No tightening. Just the gentle rhythm of air moving in and out, like the quiet pulse of a machine at rest. Your chest. Feel the space there, the expansion and release. Your breath can slow, like the steady hum of the fan, constant and soothing, asking nothing, offering everything. Your shoulders. They've carried so much. Let them drop now, fully. Let them be heavy and low. The weight of the day, the week, the year, let it all slide away like water running off a smooth stone. Your arms. Your hands. Let them rest wherever they've come to rest. Your fingers can uncurl. Your palms can be soft and open. Your hands can be as still as the papers on the desk, as quiet as the keys on a keyboard that no one is touching. Your neck, let it release. Let your head be fully supported. You don't need to hold it up. You don't need to hold anything up anymore. Your jaw, let it loosen. Let your teeth part slightly. Let your lips rest gently together. All the words you've spoken today, all the words you might speak tomorrow, they can wait. For now, there's only silence. Your eyes, even behind closed lids, they can soften. Let them rest in their sockets, not looking for anything, not seeking anything. Just resting in the gentle dark. Your forehead, your scalp. Let everything smooth. Let every line of thought dissolve. Your thoughts can settle like papers resting on the desk, finding their place, growing still and quiet. You don't need to follow the story anymore. You don't need to remember where it started or where it went. The basement is there, somewhere in your mind, but you don't need to visit it now. You can let it fade, let it become soft and distant, like a memory of a memory. The lamp is dimming. The hum is fading. The papers have all been put away. There's nothing left to do. Nothing to figure out. Nothing to solve. The puzzles can wait. The work can wait. Everything can wait. You have arrived at the end of the story, and the end is just rest. Just stillness. Just the quiet that comes when everything settles. Your body is heavy and warm. Your breath is slow and steady. The night is soft around you, holding you like a blanket, like a hand on your shoulder, like the gentle glow of a lamp in a quiet room. Sleep now. Let go. The basement is quiet. The lamp glows, then dims, then fades. The hum settles into silence. And you rest. Safe. Still. At peace. Good night.